So for this tip, I'll be talking about getting your kickflips higher towards like the very end of the video, but for the most part, I'm going to be talking about getting that first kickflip. So for the people who just want to get their kickflips higher, maybe if you want to stick around for this part of the video, because I'll be talking about techniques that maybe you don't do, and it could help you get your kickflips even higher. I don't know. So to start this off, the only trick you need to know for kickflips is just an ollie, preferably while moving if you can. It's very nice. And you shouldn't be struggling with your ollies. You should be pretty confident about them. You don't have to get them very high, as long as they get off the ground. That's really all you need to know. So if you can't kickflip, don't blame it on your board, or your trucks, or your shoes, or whatever, because it's all your fault. So for the setup, your back foot is going to be placed like how you would for a normal ollie, like this. And your front foot, I like to place it in the middle of the board and have it angled, like this. Now some people prefer to have their foot a little bit more forward, maybe a little bit back, you know, anywhere here. So what works for me may not work for you, but generally your front foot is going to be angled. And I prefer to have it in the middle, like this. So just remember to experiment with foot placement, see which works best for you, because what works for me may not work for you. But generally your front foot is going to be angled, because that's typical, you know, kickflip stance. So before you start the trick, you'll get into your foot positioning, like this, sort of. And everything before the kickflip is going to be just like how you would for an ollie. Like your shoulders are going to be square, your weight is going to be over the whole board. And it's generally just an ollie, but with your front foot in a different foot placement. So once you have all that down, all you need to do is just pop like you would for a regular ollie. Now remember, everything that I've done is pretty much like my normal ollie. So once you pop the board, instead of dragging your front foot straight up the board, like this, instead, you're going to drag your front foot at an angle and away from the board, like that. Now for dragging your front foot up the board, same rules still apply like the ollie. You're not going to be dragging your front foot like this. You're going to be dragging your front foot like this. And one thing you gotta keep in mind is that your front foot is going to be in contact with the board the whole entire time it's dragging. Like, do not try to hover your foot and try to kick it away. So what is actually going on in that drag portion of the trick is you are actually leveling out your board like this and flicking at the same time, but in one fluid motion. Now with your front foot, remember to keep your speed fluid throughout the whole flick. My front foot doesn't go faster or slower, it just goes one speed away from the board. Now remember to flick away from the board. Don't flick down, because that will look kind of ugly. You want to flick like that. Now a question I would probably get would be, where exactly do I flick the board? And the answer to that is, anywhere along here. It's actually not specific. If you flick here, 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 you'll be able to flick the board. So as long as you flick the board here, 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 the board is going to rotate. It's not going to be a big deal. You just don't want to flick here or here. All you have to do is just flick in this general area right here. So your front foot is just going to go out like this, with one speed and one direction. And if you want a good flip, make sure you kick the board at a good speed. Don't go overboard with it. So we talked a lot about the front foot portion of this trick. But what your back foot is doing is, once you do the flick, all you're doing is your back leg is going to be tucked into your body just a little bit, so that your back foot is hovering over the board. So that when it starts flipping like this, your back foot is going to be hovering over the board, like near where the trucks are. Like this would be the trucks, it'll be just hovering right around here. And this will help a lot because your back bolts are right here. So you just have to have it hovering in this general area until the board completes the rotation, like that. So the same thing again, your back foot pops to the board, your front foot flicks, your back leg is raised so that the board can rotate, and your back foot just hovers until the board comes around. So pretty much the back foot thinks it's this the whole time, like this. So back to the front foot. We already talked about flicking and everything, so your board will probably be around here, and your front foot is around here. Now you're probably asking yourself, how do I get my front foot back onto the board when it comes around? And the answer to that is you're going to bring your front leg into your body and towards you, so that your front foot and back foot are pretty much doing the same thing. So just imagine the board is rotating, and my feet are going to be hovering over the board like this. So I'll do this one more time. You flick out, your front foot is over in this general area, the board is rotating, your front leg is going to be sucked into your body and it'll come towards you and over the board as it flips around. So without the board, my kickflips will be like this. So you see how I kicked and came back in pretty quick? and I tucked my legs like this as I was going down, well, that's what you need to do. So once you are in this general position, just imagine this board is rotating as your front foot and back foot are hovered over the board, then you pretty much have the kickflip. And that's pretty much it from there. You just have to wait until the board completes its rotation, and then your front foot and back foot come back on. And it's pretty simple. And that is pretty much the kickflip. Now, a few things I want to mention. Usually I would start my common problems video like a week after the initial video, but this problem happens to so many people, and it's even frustrating for me when I see it. So I just want to get this out of the way. If your kickflips are like this, or if they are like, something like this. So what's going on in those two situations that drive me insane is what is happening is your front foot or your back foot hit the ground before your board hits the ground. And the reason why I do not like it at all is that it's telling me that once you start the trick, you pretty much just give up. I feel like every time I watch that, it's like, hey, watch this kickflip. No, screw it. And that's it. In other words, if any of your feet are like below the board or anywhere in this general area, you're not going to be able to get above the board because there's a board in the way. So unless you like, I don't know, quantum physics the hell out of your board, it's not going to happen. So what you have to do is remember to, once you do the flick, to just suck your legs into your body so that your front foot and back foot are hovering over the board as it flips. So that being said, is if you're learning the kickflip and you manage to get this, well, that's not very impressive. Like, it's a start, but it's not that impressive. So now I'm going to segue into the best, most efficient way to learn how to kickflip. Now this is pretty much like the golden tip of this video, and this will help you progress really fast. So for this tip, your goal is to not do a kickflip. This is not your goal. Your actual goal is to do a half of a flip and land somewhere on the bottom of the board. So the point of this tip is to train your feet to come back around, because the flip is the easy part. Everyone can do the flip, but the hard part is coming back around, back on the board. That's why I feel like it'll be better to don't care much about the flick, but more where your feet are going. So practice those half kickflips until your feet can land back on the board. If your feet are over here or somewhere over here, then you gotta keep practicing. Just practice those half kickflips. So in summary, I guess, this is not impressive. Anybody can do that. But what is impressive to me, if someone's learning how to kickflip, I find this pretty impressive that somebody can be able to do this. So once you are able to land your half kickflips back on the board, it doesn't have to be specific, as long as both feet are touching the board, then you pretty much have the kickflip. And all you have to do is just flick it a little bit harder and you're done. It's that simple. You just have to kick harder. So please try to learn them like this. It will help you progress so much faster. You're welcome. So the last thing I want to talk about is how to get your kickflips higher. Now, one thing you got to remember is that you could kickflip as high as you could ollie. Like if you could ollie this high, then this is the highest you could get your kickflips. If you could ollie this high, this is the highest you get your kickflips. So one way to get your kickflips higher is just to work more on your ollies, because that is your base. But if your ollies are pretty high and your kickflips are kind of low, so to fix this, how I get them higher is I kind of think of the kickflip like an ollie kickflip hybrid. Like it's not just a kickflip anymore, it's like both tricks at once. And what I mean by that is, well, of course, remember to pop pretty decently hard. And I also have a good amount of my front foot on the board. It's like right in the middle, but tilted. It's kind of like my ollie stance, but just a little different. And the reason why I could get them pretty decently high is that I focus more on the drag of the ollie than the flip of the kickflip. Now, this will come with experience. Like, I put more emphasis on the slide and leveling out than usual, and that kind of gives me a little bit more height. And I also remember to, tuck your legs into your body once you do the trick, so that the board has more of a potential to be, pretty decently high. So just, that's how I think of it. Just treat it like more of an ollie and less of a kickflip, but don't, you gotta find the balance. And so that's pretty much how to get them higher. So if you have any problems or any questions, don't be afraid to leave a comment or anything, and I will try to do my best to help. And yeah, I think that's about it. So good luck.